Yes, I do. 6.
All right. Meeting of Legislative Affairs will come to order. Clerk will call the roll.
All right, this is the Committee on Legislative Affairs and Elections. This is Thursday, February 21st, 2019. We're at 6 p.m. I have Councilor Capone.
Yep.
I have Councilor DeFlorio. Yeah. I have Councilor McLaughlin.
Present.
And I have Councilor DePiero. We have 4 members present. We do have a quorum.
4 members, we have a quorum. Please stand and salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The clerk, please read the first item.
The first item of business, this is the ordinance, offered by Council Frank Capone, an ordinance for a dry bulk storage license.
All right. On this piece, as you know, this was around for a while, went to the city solicitor, it was back on the floor, and there were 2 issues. One was the cost per 25 cubic yards, and the other one was a concern of vagueness. So I took a look at it, and I think vagueness is a little bit vague in terms of dry bulk, could be anything. So I took a look at it, and I kind of kicked around an amendment, and I'll present it to the committee and see what they seem to think. But what we're trying to do is we're trying to regulate piles of dry goods, whatever it is, salt, dirt, fill, rocks, construction matter, whatever it is. So if we put in a paragraph that specifically excludes from the requirement of a bulk license, it'll be in section 12-372 where it talks about the requirement for license. That says steps A, B, C, if we put in a paragraph D and we said specifically excluded from the requirement of a dry bulk license are those entities that are already subject to regulation by the city, such as transfer station, landfills, junkyards, solid waste management, recycling, etc. And in that way, anything that's already regulated would be regulated separately. And then this will be the catch-all for any other dry goods that are being stored in a mass amount. I think that would work. If the committee's happy with that, I'd ask someone to make that in the form of a motion, but if there's any discussion on it, absolutely. Councilor McLaughlin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, so just to bring myself up to date on this matter, so this is so that any individual that is storing bulk, dry bulk, is going to be under this chapter. Why would we differ what's already regulated versus what we're trying to regulate? Would we not want to bring it all into? It just seems like it could become confusing for our city clerk who has enough or big enough responsibility.
Yeah. Why don't we have the city clerk up and we can ask him directly?
Yeah, actually, that'd be a great idea. City clerk, come before us. Appreciate it.
Sure, absolutely. So you heard the question.
Yes.
I guess the thing is we got to be careful we're not overlapping regulations
Correct.
and everything because we'll get
So
ourselves into a
it does
ball.
make sense to keep it separate because we already have scrap metal places. They are regulated under junk.
Yep.
Some are also regulated under second-hand dealers, or both, depending on what they sell. If they're reselling the products, they're second-hand also, but the majority of them are junk dealers, what we call junk. That's how we regulate our scrap metal. So they have a regulation under our ordinances under state law, and one of our junk dealers are also considered a third-class motor dealer because they can take whole vehicles also. So they already have regulations, so to encompass them under this ordinance would be duplicative, and it wouldn't be fair to them to have the same, more regulation or more fees. So by keeping it separate, it actually is cleaner for me, because I can say junk is metal, etc., dry bulk is rock, sand, dirt,
Right.
gravel, whatever.
And-
I think it makes sense
Is there
for
a?
me.
I'm sorry, Mr.
Oh, no, that's okay. That's all right. So I don't have a problem with it.
Okay.
Yes, everything adds a little more work to the
sure.
office, but it's part of my job. So don't worry about adding work to me. Just worry about, and that's why I helped draft with you, so we can make it clean, make it regulate it reasonably, because we obviously don't want to overburden, overtax
Right.
anybody, but we want to regulate it in a way that is fair to the business and to the community. because we
Sure.
want to, I think that's the whole goal. And that's why I think we dropped the fee down after recommendations from the board, because it isn't about generating revenue.
Right.
But it does take time out of my day and inspectors to go inspect it, so you want to get a small fee back for it. But you're still regulating it in some type of fair manner and making sure that, things are done correctly. So by keeping scrap metal, and was there something else?
Well, I said anything that has regulation.
You said
I got a whole laundry
Yeah,
list.
and that's why, but scrap metal and et cetera, anything that's regulated.
And I've got in here junk and secondhand dealers, redemption centers,
Correct.
recycling centers, all of that kind of
That
stuff.
already have bulk,
That
right.
already has regulation.
Correct.
And that way,
makes sense.
that's all exempted out, and we're really just focusing on what we're looking at,
Correct.
piles of stuff that's sitting
Right.
up in air.
Right.
And so that would make sense from your point
It
of
makes
view.
sense for me.
Okay.
If the body wishes, that definitely works for my
Councilman
office.
McLaughlin?
I apologize, I lost
No, that's okay.
Sorry.
Take your time.
Apologize, Mr. Clark, I lost my train of thought. Sorry, I had a long day.
It
It's
happens.
okay.
How do we regulate what's 25 cubic yards on someone's property? I mean, you're not going to be able to
Yeah, no,
travel
it's
around the
just-
city maintaining
so
or keeping an eye on
Th-
everything.
There's, definitely a question on how I
Yeah.
do it, right? So, I would say some of it is gonna be generally on honor.
Yeah.
I mean, I have to be, it has to be reasonable. So what I think that I will do, as best as I can, and I will utilize the expertise of other people in the building. Don't forget, I mean, I don't do construction work and never have, so I'm not the expertise on this, but I will rely on people down the DPW and our engineer, who, some of them have worked in the construction field, some have done other things, that they will come with me and kind of assess it with me, is what I figured.
Yeah.
A large tractor trailer dump truck, those large trucks are roughly 25 cubic yards. So I can generally estimate, and again, they're gonna have to tell me, yes, I get 10 a week, or, and that's what how we keep it filled. I have to trust them to some degree. I mean,
Yeah.
if it looks like it's a much bigger pile, and they're telling me
Sure.
I only have one truckload, and that's all I store, but there's a mountain bigger than this room, then I know that that's not factual. But, it's not gonna be a perfect science. I'm going to try
Right.
to,
There's going to be some
there's no way I
guessing
can
there.
physically measure that. I don't think
The-
anybody can.
The other,
And
the
you're
other thing
absolutely, you
too.
cannot measure it.
So that's what I was thinking. My thought was to regulate it the best I can using other expertise in this building, in our city. We do have experts that have dealt with this, and somewhat on the honor system.
And again, a lot of it will be on the honor system, but the other thing too is when they come in, they're saying, this is how much I'm going to need at one time, this is how much I intend to store, we can get general dimensions.
Correct.
12 by 12, 50 by 50,
And-
so many feet high.
Right.
And then we can kind of guesstimate where they're at. And then that way, if they say, I'm going to have 50 cubic yards, and you see a pile that's as big as this building, you know that that's not what they're doing.
It's not
So
right.
I think that when we, as a council, put the regulation in, well, they come and they talk to us and they tell us what they're planning to do, the dimensions they need. We'll have a general idea of what it should look like and go from there.
Yeah,
I mean,
and-
again, it won't be an exact science, but I think that that'll pretty much be enough.
And with the new fee schedule, I mean, I'm thinking the largest place in this city will only be paying $300 to $400 a year at
Yeah.
most for
Yeah.
a license, because,
Yeah.
I mean, even that new.
So I want to revisit
pile.
the fee after. but-
Yeah, but I'm just saying, I mean, even,
Yeah.
50 was a
No,
lot, 5
absolutely.
maybe is a little low, but either way,
Absolutely. No, no,
the whole point is
absolutely.
not to hurt anybody.
Exactly.
That's my goal.
No, and
when
the
I
thing
write
is
ordinances.
that there is going to be time and effort, and if there's going to be time and effort because there's material on site,
Yeah.
then there should be some contribution to offset
Yeah.
that expense.
I-
And that's all we're looking for.
Yep.
But do you have any other questions, Councilman McLaughlin?
I'll yield to my colleague, and I'll come back to a couple of questions.
Councilor DeFlorio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I find that this is really an unenforceable ordinance. I don't care what you tell me. There's no way that you can enforce it, and there is no honor system. So, to me, I'd rather see a flat rate, just like you're charging for them to come and get a license. If it costs, you're gonna store, you have 3,000 feet of land, you gotta pay $250 extra, okay? There's no way you can enforce an ordinance like this. And I'm sick and tired of putting ordinances on the books that can't be enforced. Because
Yeah.
then we blame the enforcement people.
Yeah.
We blame the people downstairs not doing their job. We blame code enforcement for not doing their job. You know, I have a business, I store stuff. What are we gonna do? We're gonna go look at their invoices?
Yeah.
You just can't do it.
Yeah.
It's okay? So I understand it's not about revenues, and I understand that you want, you know, we want to have control. I get it. But I am not putting anything on the books that is not enforceable, and this is not enforceable. Now, what happens with the companies, any business that has state regulations?
Oh, a lot of businesses have state regulations that we still
So
license.
that's taken out of this ordinance?
No,
We
no.
don't have much land in Everett. I don't know what we're
No,
doing.
but the thing is, if there was a conflict, then state law would supersede.
Correct.
But where there isn't a conflict, if there's no regulation by the state, the city's free to fill that
Right.
void.
I
Yeah.
understand that. But how many businesses is this going to affect?
Anyone who's going to be storing open-air stuff.
Currently,
many-
off the
right,
top of my
currently
head,
right
maybe
now,
a
you got the
dozen to
junkyard.
18.
What?
Probably small.
Junkyards are
They're out.
excluded.
That's
They're gonna be
what I'm saying.
excluded.
You're excluding the
I-
junkyard, so how
Because
many
they already have a
business-
fee. They already have a license.
Right.
So
how
I
many
think it's a
bus-
dozen to anywhere
it
from
won't
12 to
be- it won't be
18
many.
roughly. It's not a large
Shouldn't
amount.
be many.
But even our junkyards, we only have 6. We
Yeah.
regulate 6 junkyards or
Right, so
7.
for 12 people, they're going to be storing this, that you have to go back and forth, you have to get code enforcement involved, you have to add more positions. Well, I don't understand. What's the cause of this? Where are we going with it?
Well, I mean,
As the
I'm gonna yield
sponsor,
to
I
the
can tell you.
I'm going to yield to the sponsor. I mean, I helped draft it, but
Yeah, what's happening is, exactly. The issue is that if
They're
you don't.
grandfathered in now.
No, they're not. They just came in with flammable license. But the thing is this, if you don't have any regulation, people can just store piles of stuff everywhere, and we can't say anything about it. The reality is, I don't think we're going to see piles of stuff every other block. But the reality is, we should have something in
So why don't you
place,
put a height restriction?
because every parcel's different. You might have a place that's 3 acres, and you might have a place that's a little backyard. So the
3
way we,
acres-
the way we
so with
have
3
it.
acres, you can
Yeah.
have 30 feet, a backyard, you
Yeah.
can have 5 feet.
But you know what? The way we have it set up is it's site-specific. So when a petitioner comes in, they're going to come in front of the council, and they're going to tell us the square foot that they have, what their needs are, because every business is going to have a different need. Some might be able to get away with a small amount of material on hand. Some others might need a very large amount. So basically, depending on what the petitioner is asking us for, we as a council get to kind of decide what's reasonable and go from there. But,
City council has to approve
yeah, so it comes in front of this body. So no one's going to run away with it. And everyone's situation is going to be a little bit different.
I don't know if I want the business people to come in front of this
Yeah.
body. I think we'll embarrass them.
Wow, we exist. Council DePiero.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My only concerns right now is with the materials definition. I'd be a lot more comfortable if the "but not limited to" language was strucken out. And if a business does pop up and we find a need that we want to license it, we can revisit the ordinance in the future and further amend it. But I think we should just keep it very, very specific, because that was my main concern
I know
a few
that
weeks
was-
ago, was
yeah.
the vagueness.
Yeah, and that's why I thought that maybe that language about specifically excluding those other businesses would pretty much rule almost anything
Anything
else
else
out. The only thing that we're left with, flammables, liquids are all out of this. So it's any dry good that's not regulated elsewhere. So even though we say these items but not limited to, there's only so many things it could be. So I understand the concern, and that's why I took another look at it, and I thought that by excluding those things, we really are limited to dry items that aren't regulated elsewhere. Because otherwise, we do leave ourselves open, that someone comes up with something, and we're like, oh geez, we don't have that. So it's kind of a catch-all for anything that could be a dry good, but anything that's regulated anywhere else is out. So I think we're covered. I understand the concern, and that's why I looked at it again, and I carved out all those other things.
Yeah,
So
I just
hope
don't
that
want to
that
be in a
addresses it.
situation where all of a sudden someone's interpretation is, all right,
Yeah.
you got a 20
gotta be dry.
Yeah,
It's
you
gotta
got
be
a
dry.
20-foot pile of ladders in the back of your,
Yeah.
garage. People interpret things differently.
Yeah.
That's my concern, that's all.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman,
Councilman McLaughlin.
to Councilor DeFlorio's point, can we look, is it reasonable to look at doing a flat rate across the board that by the square footage of your property or something to that effect, that you would get charged X amount of dollars versus somebody that may have a smaller facility?
you
or
mean more
small-
like a staggered fee, so it's
Yeah, you-
250 for this amount,
Yeah.
500,
Yeah.
1,000, and that's it? Or like
Yeah.
you max it out?
And you max out at something, absolutely.
That's, I
mean,
would,
this
I
is-
would
this
yield
is-
to the...
this
the-
is new
the-
territory.
Yeah, I would
If
I
my
would yield to
colleague
the
from-
sponsor if he, it's his piece, so I don't want to just say yes, so
Mr.
that's
Chairman,
your
how-
choice.
Mr. Chairman, as the sponsor of the piece, how do you feel about doing a flat rate that, I think if we were to do a flat rate, Councilor Florio brings up a good point, we can at least now have a uniform piece across the board that everybody's getting charged something.
Yeah.
Right? And then if down the road we need to go back and further amend it or change this fee schedule, I'm sure that we could look at that if it's down the road. But to introduce it for the first time or to get it on the books to start, it might be good to have a flat rate across the board where everybody feels as though they're
The
being.
only concern that I have with a flat rate is that you can have a very big organization and a very small organization, and they're being treated exactly the same.
No, they wouldn't though, right, Mr. Chairman, because you would be charging by the footprint of the lot. So if you were gonna store.
Oh, you're saying just flat
So if
out?
it's a 5,000 square foot
Yep.
location, $250 a year.
If it's a
Anything from
10,000 square foot-
5,001 to 15,000 X amount. Anything from
Right.
15,001 to 50,000 X amount. I think,
So
I'm
if you're
saying
storing-
generally,
if you're
I'm
storing
yeah.
mulch in
using
your
fake
backyard,
numbers.
Council,
But
The only thing that I would say with that, obviously open to anything that the group wants to discuss, the only thing that would concern me about that is if you make it flat, you kind of take away a little bit of leverage to kind of control how much is on site at one time. You could put a max, but the thing is if a company knows, like with the fee, like I want to treat the amendment for the fee separate and just try to make sure that we're all comfortable with the vagueness of this first. But to the point, I think that as far as the fee goes, I think that if we do flat amounts and a cap, when a petitioner comes in front of us, there really isn't, there's not going to be any incentive for them to go with a smaller pile on hand at one particular time. And the good thing about this is, we were talking about the numbers, it's a one-time fee based on how much you're going to keep on your land at the same time. So let's just say 25 cubic yards, and we've got a number in here now, $5. You can replenish that 1,000 times the same year, you're paying just that one fee. It never comes back. So I don't want to get too sidetracked with the amount.
The only question to you, Councilor Capone, is, so it's a one-time fee, so they come up here, they pay $5, $5 or whatever we end up making out to.
Yeah,
to
whatever
be,
we end up saying.
whatever it ends up being. So now they say, okay, we're gonna have 25 cubic yards. They walk out the door with no intention of really having 25 cubic yards.
Yep.
Now they're gonna have 250 cubic yards on
Yep.
on their property.
Yep.
Unless we get a report or a phone call that they're over-exerting their quantity and they're, have this mound of material that's as big as City Hall, we're not gonna really know whether or not they were upfront and truthful with us, because, again, our city clerk has a lot on his plate already,
Yep.
and there really is no way to measure. I mean, you can measure it by a truckload coming in, a tractor-trailer load is, somewhere around 25
Yep.
cubic yards. But we don't know if that's one load comes in a day, one load comes in a
Right.
week, or
Right.
100 loads come in throughout the.
It could come in daily if they're removing stuff daily,
Yep.
too. So there's no restriction on how many times a week they can deliver.
Right.
They could deliver multiple times a
I think if we were
day
to
if they move it
start
out.
with doing a flat rate and see how it goes.
Yeah, I mean, we can. It's
And then I
brand-new
think we could
territory.
go back and revisit it and do it maybe the first year. We do it as a flat rate and see how the first year works out. Get everybody on the same page. And
Sure.
you measure it by the square footage of the property lot.
Yep.
So you look at the blueprint and see where their lot footage is.
Yeah, it's brand-new territory, so that's fine. We can always revisit. It's not fatal no matter what we end up doing.
Right.
The biggest thing about this
Getting
ordinance
something on the book.
is about protecting the environment. I
Yeah,
mean,
no,
first of all, it's
absolutely.
regulating piles, but it's making sure things aren't seeping into the dirt,
No.
seeping into the water, flying around in the air. So that's really the biggest push on it.
I totally
So,
agree
yeah,
with that.
no, I don't have an
And I
issue
think to
with trying to
Councilor
get flat
DePiero's
rates.
point as well, that the language, even that, maybe we can revisit it and torque
Yeah.
it as we need to and continue to work on it because it is new. But I think doing a flat rate might be the right way to roll this out as
Yeah.
a new initiative, just to get it
Yeah.
started. And then we can.
That's fine. We just
intend
want to get it on the books, yeah.
Intend on revisiting it again and bringing it back to the table to work on it.
That's fine. Councilor LaFleur, you had a question?
Thing I was thinking of, so I store sand and cement.
Yep.
I only store sand and cement in the summer.
Yep.
In the winter, I don't store it. Why do I have to pay all year?
Well, it's just to have the pile up there. You have, yeah. I mean, it's a seasonal business, I understand what you're saying, but if you're going to store stuff on site, it's X amount of dollars per cubic
Right,
yard,
but I
it's
think we
one-time
also have to
fee.
start working on the height.
Well,
You
it
have
depends on
5,000
what,
feet, you can't go any more than 12 feet
yeah.
high. You have-
Yeah, and that's going to
you
be a
have-
case-by-case
yeah.
basis when
Right.
when a
But I
petitioner
think, no,
comes
but I
in.
think we have to specify that.
I think you're going to tie your hands too much, because you don't know what's going to come in front of you. I think that when a petitioner comes in and they've got X amount of square feet or X amount of acreage, at that point, we can just deal with that one specific person. I think if we try to tie down every loose end, we're going to make it unmanageable. Yep.
I'm asking a question now to our other clerk. Couldn't we put some conditions at when they, I mean, I know we can put conditions, but wouldn't that be a condition of the license once they came up?
That's what I'm saying.
So
When they
by-
come,
by
we can
each
address all of that
situation,
then.
Say you had a larger company come
Yeah.
in and say, you know what, yeah, great, we're gonna limit this, but you also can't go more than X
Yeah.
amount of feet high because we don't feel comfortable with that material, possibly, whatever.
Yeah, and it's already in here. It is in here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's already in here. And so that way, because every petition is going to be different. You know, their use, the function, the size, it's all going to be different. So rather than trying to cookie cut everybody, I think you're better off just dealing at them one at a time.
The
when they come up.
material also piles up differently. If you ha-
Absolutely.
If you have a salt material, it's going to spread out wider, as we know, versus mulch that's going to spread taller, or, you know, and that's not going to spread as wide left and right, but it will get taller. And I think doing a case-by-case basis, I think is the right way, because different materials that you'll store will pile up or store differently versus, you know, the next piece, the next item that comes
Yeah,
before us.
and these are material specific. So if someone comes in and says, I'm going to store sand, they can't go and store salt. It has to, it's a specific material. So if they're looking, whatever they're looking to store, they need to be clear with this council what they're looking to store, how much they think they're going to be storing. And then that's the conditions that we'll be putting on them.
My only question, and I'm Council Cohen, not to split hairs, sure, but, you know, if they say they're gonna store salt, but road salt, but
Yep.
then they start to store sand because you use sand at the same time in the winter, you know,
That's not what we would have given them a permit for.
but
Now,
can
if they came up and said, we want to store salt
Salt and
and
sand.
sand, sure. But if you say, I'm going to store mulch, and then you start storing concrete,
Yeah, no, I totally understand.
Yeah.
If you're going, you know, saying I'm gonna store concrete and you start to store in mulch, then it's true. But if
say
you're doing
what?
salt and sand, it's
Yeah.
in the same, you know,
It's in the same business.
yeah, and
Family,
that would be for the petitioner to bring to the council's attention. And whatever it is that they're seeking,
Okay.
that's what we would be voting on.
All right.
It's part of their conditions.
Yeah.
Okay.
But you're saying dry bulk storage. You're not specifying. That's all
Well-
dry bulk.
Well, they're specifying, so when they come
Yeah,
up, they're supposed
we'll
to
know what it
specify
is.
what they want. Same thing as like any other licensee that we have. They do specify how many
specify.
vehicles they're gonna have, how many,
Yeah.
so if they don't, it's same, we'll just use a motor dealer. You know, we get a license, say from the,
But does your license
it
explain
states,
that?
it states, my
It states-
license says 18 cars, we'll just use it, motor dealer. It says 18 cars, I inspect, and if there's more than 18 cars, that's when I may issue a fine, because they're breaking one of our conditions.
Right, but when you do the license for this.
It would
say we
say,
passed
it would say storage
Does it
of
say-
salt only, or salt and sand only, or gravel, salt, and sand. Whatever they tell us at our meeting is part of my minutes, which also goes into the condition, and it goes in perpetuity unless they amend the license. That's how I do it. There's a little clause inside my license form. It tells you restrictions, and in the restrictions, I would write of salt and sand only, or whatever it was that you approved. It would also say, in accordance with chapter, whatever the ordinance is. So I do that. So that way they understand also. That way when they get their license, they know they're licensed under Division 7 bulk storages, and this is what they're licensed for, at whatever capacity. So that's all part of the
Yeah.
conditions. I mean,
Yep.
generally. This is new, but I'm
Yeah.
saying we do it with any other license.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Chairman, how do we amend this by adding the flat fee into the language
Well,
of this piece?
First, if we can, I wanted to take them in two parts. I wanted to get that amendment in there about specifically excluding those other things that we regulate. And if we can do that, then we can come back and then address the fee schedule.
So I'll make a motion that we,
I would leave this in committee until that's done, is that correct?
Well, I mean, I already had made a
He
recommendation. I don't know if
drafted it,
that
so
was,
he wants you to make an amendment.
so I'm going to make a motion that we accept paragraph D.
as I
And,
stated, I'll say it again if you guys
Nope,
want.
I think we're good. So we're going to make a motion that we're going to accept paragraph D,
To specifically exclude those things that are already
to
regulated.
specifically exclude the itemized materials that are.
Yeah,
regulated.
entities that are already regulated elsewhere. That way
So
we're not
I'll make that as a
overlapping.
motion.
You're making, is that a new subsection D?
It would be a new subsection
under
D in section
12-372?
12-372.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, yeah. So it's been moved in second to accept the amendment. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it.
And Mr. Chairman, could you just either give that to the clerk or
Absolutely.
myself so I can add it
Yeah,
into the official?
absolutely. I will.
Thank you.
And now we're
Then,
at
Mr.
the, we're
Chairman,
at the fee part now.
Make a motion that we place a structure fee of a flat.
Yeah, flat structured fee, if that's what you're looking for.
Per square footage of the lot size?
Yeah, and, okay, you can do it as you wish. And what would you like to do? So,
Yeah, that's the question. I don't know what the thoughts are about how to schedule a flat fee.
so, I'll just give you an
Well,
example,
you said you had 12, about 12 places, right?
give or take.
No
Okay.
more than
I-
X
it was a-
cubic
it was a-
yards
it was
is
a
X
guess.
12
dollars.
places,
and-
give us an idea how many square foot each one is.
Yeah, I would say, well, some are probably 5 to 10,000 square feet because they've been around for a while and they're smaller. And some are probably 30,000 square feet. Maybe that facility that we,
I
that's
don't-
down there, I would say is quite large.
I think that rather than the square footage, I would go by the amount of material, because what's going to happen is, depending on where the parcel is located, height restrictions are going to be. So I wouldn't go by square footage, I'd go by the amount of material that's to be kept on
Just
site at
concerned,
one
Mr.
time.
Chairman, And all due respect to you.
Yep.
I'm just concerned that trying to regulate the amount of material that is on site for somebody is going to be almost a non-reasonable task for our city clerk to be able to monitor that, and that somebody can definitely skirt around the matter and not be upfront and not give, again, this isn't a money-generated thing, so I understand that also doesn't really play a factor into this. It's more about protecting the environment and being eco-friendly. So, and I don't want to see somebody not pay their fair share and then somebody else have to pay their fair share.
Right. The thing is that, I mean, you kind of give it an eyeball test. Like, if a petitioner came in front of us and they said, this is how much stuff I'm going to use.
But Mr.
and-
Canelio can't play bocce.
No,
correctly,
but this is an example, because there's no exact science. So what I'm saying is, if they come up and they say, I'm going to use X amount, and you say, okay, I got an area. We as a council put a restriction on them. You can do 50 feet by 50 feet, not go more than X high. So that way, if someone complains, hey, that pile's out of control, goes by and looks at it, goes, yeah, it looks 50 by 10. It's in the ballpark. But if you go and you see that they've got 200 by 100, it's obvious.
But my
that-
question to you, Mr. Chairman, and I'm really not trying to make this difficult, I promise. He'll be challenged all day in court. If he gives out a fine for a pile that he thinks
It would
is
have to be
higher-
obvious. It would have to be
higher
obvious. He's
or-
not going to sit
If
there
you
with a
know me,
measuring
I-
cup.
They're going to say that his.
You know me, I don't write
his
fines
eye
very
test
often.
isn't-
No,
they're
it would
gonna
have to
challenge
be
his
an
eye test.
obvious violation. It would have to be an obvious violation.
You could
That's the only way
say,
to
we
go.
can also say, you can't go any higher than the surrounding houses, or you can't go any higher than the surrounding buildings.
Well, yeah, exactly, and that's
Okay,
a
because
restriction
in
that we
court,
would put on.
Yeah, it's your
because
condition.
You
Yeah.
would lose in court. If I decided that I'm in an area, that there's things that are 80 feet high, and I'm storing something 50 feet high, and you're gonna fine me, I'm bringing you to court. I'm gonna say the
Yeah.
buildings in front of me is 80 feet high.
Yeah, and I'd make that specific when the petitioner comes
Yeah,
in.
that's
I wouldn't
why
make
we
that a
didn't set it
blanket
in the
statement,
ordinance.
because you could have
I'm-
stuff in
I'm okay with
residential
doing whatever
areas,
we
you could have
want.
stuff
Yeah,
in,
I just was trying to say,
Yeah.
a flat fee was just more secure for us to be able to roll this out. But
Yeah.
I'm okay with doing per cubic yard at the end of the day.
I mean, honestly, we can do whatever, but I don't think that if a petitioner comes and says, I need X amount of cubic yards, you can go on the internet and you can see the material that they're taking, and you can see the amount of foot space that they're looking for. You can calculate how many cubic yards that is, and as long as let's say we put a size restrictions, 20 feet by 20 feet, doesn't go more than 15 feet high. If someone complains, the clerk's not going to go driving there every day, but if someone complains, hey, I think they've got excessive stuff over there, he can kind of go by and take an eyeball and go, yeah, that looks like it's roughly in the realm, or if it's clearly a violation, that's when you'd have to address it. But we don't want to make it any bigger of a burden on him than it need be, and we're not expecting him to go down there and weighing stuff out with scales. But if it's an obvious violation of what they're requested to do, that should be easily noticed, I would think.
Mr. Chairman,
I find that fair.
I find it fair as well, but the poor city clerk's got to look at streetlights, double poles,
Yeah.
piles of salt, and the
Yeah.
poor guy won't go to sleep.
And that's why making the fee per cubic yard, that whatever measurement we have, is a good thing to do, because when you have a larger facility, they're going to pay a larger share. Those revenues are available to get assistance for our city clerk to be able to enforce this. So,
You're gonna make,
Right
there was no
now-
amendment, right? So
Yeah,
we-
right, well, the thing is that everything is done, it's just a fee, so.
I do have a
right-
fee in there, I just didn't.
Yeah, right now
There is
it's
a fee.
$5 for every 25 cubic yards. And the reality is, I looked at it, the motion that I was trying to get on the floor when it was in front of the council was $10. I didn't think $10 was excessive, because you have to remember, when they come and they say it's X amount that we're going to keep on one hand, they pay $10 per 25 cubic yards, they only pay it once. So if they're keeping 2,500 cubic yards on site one time, and they're going to keep replenishing it all year long, they're only paying, yeah, but one time.
They'll pay $250.
Yeah, one time, that's it.
No, application fee is
It
only
was
the
only the very
initial.
first time,
So,
only very first time.
application is just the first time to
Yep.
get the license.
And then the renewal,
Applications are first time. Renewals are
Yeah.
the ones that are residual, that go every year.
yeah. Yeah, I think that's fair. When you calculate the weight on 25 cubic yards, you're talking thousands of pounds, depending on the material. $10 to be able to keep thousands of pounds on hand all year long, one $10 fee, doesn't sound excessive. We may come back next year and say, oh my God, we got to take it to the cleaners. Or we might say, geez, we got to rework that. But I think that $10 for 25 cubic yards on hand is pretty fair. Is there a second? Okay, it's been moved and second. All in favor? All opposed? The ayes have it. The piece as amended? As amended. Is there a second? It's been moved and second. All in favor? All opposed? The ayes have it. Clerk will move to item number 2. And there are some amendments on this one. Did the members get it? Okay.
I would move to, oh, he has to read the piece.
Item number 2 is an ordinance offered by Council Richard Delasola as president, that an ordinance for a commercial passenger vessel license for business located inside the city of Everett be established.
Council Piero.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would move that we accept the proposed amendment given to us by the city clerk, replacing section 12-382 with new language, part A.
Moved in second for the amendment. All in favor?
All right.
All opposed? The ayes have it. On the piece itself, any questions at all from the board? I actually do have
Good try.
two concerns. I don't recognize you. So,
Yes.
the first thing is with the council renewal piece, where we have, a lot of these ordinances are coming up, and we have no, and we really do have to keep our hands in it if we have a problem petitioner. I know that I had spoken with Mr. Flood, and I think that he had made a revision. We were on the same page with something. I don't know if it's happened yet. I think it's section 12-312.
It's going to be in the, sorry.
Yeah.
The revision is going to be in general for all ordinances.
Exactly.
It has not, and we'll be presenting it very soon.
Good.
It'll tie in, these
Yeah.
licenses aren't coming out till
Yeah.
April and May, so
Okay.
I hope
Good.
you feel comfortable with
Yeah.
giving me the authority just in the interim, but it's not
Sure.
that long. And then we'll have that revised language that states that, as long as it's a routine matter,
Right.
I'm going to, rather than
Yeah.
putting everything on the agenda.
Oh, absolutely.
We bog down our
No,
agenda.
if it's a routine, it should just
for
move along.
routine issues all the time.
And for the membership, just so you know exactly what we're talking about, is if you had a petitioner who had violations during the year, I want it to be automatic that it comes to the council for our review. But if they did everything they're supposed to do and it's a straight renewal, the clerk can just do it.
Because we're bogging down our agenda
Yeah,
for things
absolutely.
that are not necessary.
Absolutely.
I agree with that,
So-
Mr. Chairman.
And the only other question that I had was, there's two. There's a section 12-384. We have subpart A, 1, B, then there's 1 and 2. I think it's easy, just say the page. It's the third page in, down at the bottom. We have a paragraph 2 when it talks about an applicant's commercial passenger license. Was there supposed to be something in there, or did we miss it? It's on the third page down at the very bottom. There's a
For each-
paragraph 2.
For each person proposed to operate it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't know if we missed
Copy there.
something, or if something was supposed to go in there, or we just taking 2 out.
Sorry, let me just read it. Yeah. Proposed to operate it. Copy of the United States.
Yeah.
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 A copy of this.
Yeah, I don't know if it's Scrivener's error and we just need to strike it, or if there
Yep.
was language that we wanted.
I just want to read the first part, because then it might tie into
Absolutely.
the second, sorry.
I would be comfortable referring it out and having an amendment given to us at the regular meeting if
Yeah,
needed.
is that
I
okay?
think so. Yeah, I
Because
think-
it's
I think
only
it's
for
a-
enrollment, and I'll
Yeah.
give you the exact language. It could have been a mistake on my part.
And it looks like it's geared towards the captain's license stuff.
Right,
So it's gonna be
so the
something to
pr-
do with the
We're just trying to
captain.
prove that they're licensed. So I don't know if we were debating on he needed something, the person would need something
Okay.
else, or we were leaving at just their
Okay.
Coast Guard license.
Mr. Chairman, I have just two quick questions on this.
Sure.
If I could ask them briefly. One is, so it's annual renewal fee, $500 for first vessel, $250 per each additional vessel. So do we not have a number of how many vessels one operator can have? Is it like a taxi license,
we
or
don't-
is there?
We didn't max it out. I mean,
Is that something that, I know that, let's be truthful, we're not going to have 10 businesses popping up in the next year that are going to be looking for vessel licenses. It's going to be Encore, and maybe another or something, but it's not going to be, extreme amount. I'm just wondering if we should number this to, say, 5 vessels per
Yeah, we could have the clerk
license holder.
address that.
I think, and this is your decision, but this is new.
Yeah.
So we don't know how many we're going to need. Maybe this is a very popular thing.
Yeah.
And, to alleviate the traffic on our streets, and people want to start taking water taxis and water boats. We didn't write this because we didn't feel that limiting it at the beginning without knowing what the need was correct. Because if we did limit it to 3 or 4, and all of a sudden, they needed more, would that be a fair way to do things, especially where the water taxi is obviously going to alleviate the traffic on our city streets, and we could use every bit of alleviation as possible. So instead of people coming in from Boston through car and bus, they could come through the water, which would free up our streets a little. That was my idea. That doesn't mean you have to accept it. I think, just for my sake, the same thing, give it a chance for the first year, see what's needed, and then I'm sure we can put a condition as part of the license too. If we feel like there's, too many, we will limit it as it goes.
The only problem that I have with that, Mr. Clark, and all due respect, is that if we don't put some sort of a guideline in place and we allow this to get out of control in the first year, how are we going to be able to rein this back?
I also
in the
don't
second
believe,
year?
so real quick also,
Okay.
initially, they only told me they were going to get about 3 or 4.
Right. That's
to
why I said
start.
number 5. If we
And
use the
I
number
understand
of
that.
5.
Listen, this is your decision. I just
You-
know
you-
what I was thinking.
yeah.
It doesn't mean you have to follow my thoughts.
You know what might not be a bad idea is if in the purpose section, like we had with the dry bulk section, where it says that it's subject to terms and conditions as the council sees fit, and that way when the petitioner comes to get their petition, at that time they can say, I've got 10.
All right.
And we can say, okay, or that's too many, or someone says, I got 50. We go, no, we're not going to do 50. So we could probably put that language into the purpose, just so that the city council has the ability to put, well, actually, it's already in there.
I think we had some of
It's
that
already in
language
there.
in there.
Subject to terms and
No,
conditions
and
as
that's
sees
the
fit.
other
It's already
thing,
in there.
right.
It's
The
all
reason
set.
I didn't want to limit it right
Yeah.
away, there was a reason. I mean,
Yeah. You know what?
correct.
Well, yeah, it's
I
it's
think
in
we
there.
should, I think we should leave this in committee and work on it a little bit.
Well, you know what? I know that they wanted to get this out, but here's the thing. In this particular thing, it already does have the conditions for the council. So when the petitioner comes in front of us and they say, I'm going to employ X amount of boats, at that time, we could say yay, nay, whatever, reduce it, whatever the case might be.
Like you did for
When-
delivery.
Exactly. So now, when they come for a renewal, if they're looking for a larger number of vessels, it's not a routine under the definition. So they'd have to come in front of the council and say, we're looking to add another 5 vessels because it's actually working pretty good and it's keeping people off the road. So the power is still going to be in the council's hands when the petitioner comes up.
I don't see it that way.
Yep. Yep.
You don't have to issue licenses, just because people apply for them.
No, they come in front of us, and if we think
You
that
have no,
they're
you have no
reputable, then
obligation to keep issuing more and more and more, although.
Mr. Chairman, I think we should leave this into committee and work
Yep.
on this a little bit further.
Well, we can do whatever you want to do, but with all due respect, I don't really think it needs any more working, because the reality is, the concern that you're expressing,
I think it does.
the concern you're expressing is we don't want it to blow up. So what's going to happen is, on a case-by-case basis, you're going to have a petitioner come up and say, I need X boats. The council's going to hear them and say, gee, that sounds like too many vessels on the waterway. No, we do. We're going to give them a license. We can deny. Yeah, we can. It's a
It's
condition.
in
The
the
council can
condition of
put a
license.
condition on the
It
license.
doesn't have to be in the,
Yeah, it's in
it'll
the
be in the
purpose
condition.
section.
You said that evening.
12-380.
That evening, they're gonna give me they're gonna say, Mr. Cornelio, I'm gonna pay you $500 plus
Yeah.
1,000. So
Yep.
that means they're paying me $1,500, which is 5 vessels.
Yep.
You will ask me, Mr. Clerk, how many vessels are they going to be licensed for? I'm gonna state their application asks for 5.
Right.
You will say, okay, this license is for 5 vessels. I will mark that down. I will put it in the restrictions of their license, and they are not allowed to operate anymore without coming before this council
Exactly.
to get more. Same as the livery. We allowed them to, the first 2 plus the 6. We did in the livery license. We limited it, and I wrote it in their license, and it is a restriction of their license that they have X amount of livery, and if they need more, they have to come back before us. I know you're trying to limit it generally, but I don't think it's fair at the beginning, because you don't
No,
want
Mr.
to
Clerk, I'm
put the
not-
perception that one company is only going to get licenses at the
Right.
beginning, so.
You don't
I
want a
just-
monopoly.
I want to leave it open to
Hold
give
on, hold on,
the opportunity, is
Yep.
what I was saying.
Council McLaughlin.
Time out. I'm not trying to shield for any one company. I'm not trying to make sure that one is favored over the other. I know you're not. saying
No, that's
that.
not what I was saying.
No, I
I'm
know you're
saying-
not, absolutely, but all
I'm
I'm
saying we
saying
don't
is,
wanna do that.
if we have 3 companies come before us, and we're gonna allow one company to operate 6 vessels, and then one company we're gonna allow operate 4 vessels, or 3 vessels, whatever,
Yep.
they're gonna say, well, the city council, you're favorable towards this X petitioner versus Y petitioner. If we have a number that we say nobody can operate more than 5 or 7, or whatever that number might be,
But we do that
Whatever-
now with our
whatever-
taxing. We have a particular.
well, I think we finally, under your leadership, we were able to actually rein that in, and we were able to actually do a good job with that under your leadership as our city clerk, and not, but I think that's what I'm thinking, to be quite honest, that has been a monopolizing system for,
And I agree.
decades, that, and I think that's fair, that I think we should have a standard number.
You have to remember the time constraints. This has to be a mobile,
Yeah.
it's gotta be a different.
Then the petitioner
guys,
has to
but again,
license
hold
it.
on,
Public
hold
hearings, son.
License, now these individuals have to come back out.
Yeah.
But
To be
again-
approved.
Your license.
Yeah.
So now they submit the thing, the piece of business comes on the calendar, it goes back in the committee convenes on it, gives their approval, lays and pat a roll, then it goes back for a vote
Yeah.
for approval. You're really pushing the boundaries.
But Mr. Burley, in all due respect, that's exactly what my concern is. I don't want anybody to say that we created an ordinance or we created a law based on one individual's needs. If we as a body need extra time to work on this, then that petitioner is going to have to respect the fact that we're not trying to
Yeah.
circumvent or try to
Right.
meet their needs. That we do need to protect our body.
This is for the city.
Well, the
And this
reason,
is for
yeah.
the city, not
Yeah.
for one individual
Yeah.
petitioner.
Based on the known open committee
Right.
of
But I'm not looking at
Yeah.
the known open in Davisburg, because we need to look at this as a, but it's an ordinance that we're gonna put on the city, on the books for the next 100 years, not just for the one.
Well, it can
one
always be,
petition.
it can always be amended. And the thing is, this
Okay.
is new territory, and I understand your concern, but the reality is, if we keep the restrictions that we can place on it by the council, we're always in control. So when a petitioner comes up, if what they're asking for sounds reasonable, we can vote for it. If it sounds unreasonable, then you don't vote for it. And as many petitioners who come in front of us that have a vessel to operate, if they're a legitimate organization and they show themselves to be, worthy of a permit, we could go ahead and issue it. So we will always control whatever happens in this council.
And again, I support,
Councilman McLaughlin?
I support, like we all do, the company that we're talking about, that.
Or it could be any company.
Right, exactly, but what it mean, the timeline, right? We all support making that as easy a transition as we can to see success in our community. There's no question about that. But we need to make sure that we're doing this for everybody across the board, that we're being
Right.
fair for anybody that might come to the city of Everett for this type of a permit. So I
It's-
support this fully.
yeah.
I just want to make sure that nobody can come back to us and say, hey, guys,
Oh, yeah.
you rushed this through without thinking this.
It's a real need that's going to be here in June, a real need. So we need to be able to meet that demand before June. And then we can always take everything on a case-by-case basis as we go. Mr. Clerk, you wanted to
Just so you
address
know,
that?
yes, we have a need because of who's, what's coming to the community. I saw some type of need for this because I knew the intentions of a business, absolutely. And that's why we started drafting this. The reason I didn't put the restrictions on, or I didn't think it was, because I did not want it to look like I was trying to favor one company, because if
Right.
I wrote 5 in there, I know personally that they're looking for 4. So that is making me as city clerk look like I'm being favorable to one company. Not you. I wrote this, or it was drafted through my my office. So I didn't want to look like I'm favoring a company. I
Sure.
knew the need for our community needed this.
Right.
A business also needs it, but
Mhm.
for the benefit of our community. And if I wrote 5 or 6, I knew the majority of them would be owned by one company, and I thought that would be a disservice to my credibility as the clerk and to our community. So that's why I didn't do that. And no offense to anybody, I mean, I believe that we should limit it at some point, but I thought we should test the waters, see where we go, and maybe other companies are going to come in there. That'd be a great thing. We want a larger business community. You want people to, open more and more businesses, and I thought it was fair. So in our authority or your authority as city councilors, you will be able to limit it. You'll be able to make sure, through me and you and our research, to make sure everyone's licensed, the businesses are licensed, the docks are there, and so on and so forth. So that's why I didn't limit it. I
Okay.
just wanted to I want to make sure you understood. Do we? We do not at the moment.
We don't have what?
I think that's something that we're probably going to need.
At some point, and it was discussed a while back,
I missed that. What was
the
that?
harbor master.
Yeah.
I know at some point, and there's, like I said, there's a need for a lot of things in the community.
absolutely.
We have
Yeah.
more and more needs, and which I'm trying to address them as best as I can as clerk. I can't think of everything,
Right.
but as we come along, I think of things, right? And I discuss with other clerks. I've called
Yeah.
many other city clerks across the Commonwealth to try to get this done. And I go to conferences and we meet a lot, and they realize what I'm going through, so they actually throw ideas at me. So it's
Yeah.
been good. I'm doing the best I can to try to regulate and create ordinances without being prejudicial.
Yeah. Council DeFlorio. We have it. It's already in there. The restrictions, yeah. We can do a case-by-case basis. Because you can have a small operation come, and they just want to operate one boat. And you can have another one that wants to operate multiple ones. So-
Someone comes at the beginning,
Yep.
they get all these boats now, 2 years goes by, somebody wants to make that much, then we don't have a space for it.
Yeah.
I mean, you say you deny them based on, that it's
Yeah, depending on how many boats are already in the waterway. You can only fit so many.
You're asking me a lot of questions that I don't.
Mr. Chairman.
I don't know how
Yes,
many
we are.
boats you can fit in. This is part of the
Yeah.
harbor. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not a small
Yeah,
area.
again, like I said, yeah. Yeah, there probably
There
would
actually
be.
probably is.
The harbor master.
And the Coast Guard does
So-
patrol that along with the state
Yeah.
police.
And I would think
as we
once,
discussed
yeah,
before.
once you get into the water, it crosses over into Boston, they must have somebody, then the Coast
Correct.
Guard gets
They
involved.
have their own boats.
So there's a very small area that's going to be Everett before you cross over out of I guess, the jurisdiction.
Yeah, right where
But-
that bridge is roughly
Yeah.
where the line.
So,
give or take.
the reality is, we do have the authority to put restrictions on it. So a petitioner can come in and ask for 12 boats. We don't have to give them 12 boats. We could say, we want to keep the field open for other parties. So maybe we issue them 8 or 7. And then if nobody comes forward and there's a need for additional boats, we could always address it down the road. But as long as we keep the restriction authority with this body, we're always in control.
Mr. Clerk,
let's say, you have a casino now,
Yep,
okay? So here he comes, he wants 4 boats.
yep.
He comes 6 months later and says, hey, 4's not enough.
Well, we'll have to see, we'll have to take it on the base, yeah.
But the point is, if you give it to him, you have to give it to everybody else.
Well, if somebody else shows up, if there's a need, you're going to see another company jump in and try to fill that need.
Chairman.
That's probably what will happen.
I'll be
Councilman
truthful,
Goff.
Mr. Chairman. And I know that my friends can attest to this. When I was at Spalding Rehab a few years ago, the dock boat was outside my hospital room window. There was a lot of boats that traveled there all day long. It's very popular. People
Oh, yeah.
really use these waterways to get around Boston. And I was
Absolutely.
actually quite surprised about how often these boats were actually dropping people off and picking people up and moving them around the Boston waterways. Mr. Burley and I had talked, Councilor Piero and I talked about it. It was a pretty active business. It was
Yeah.
something that was eye-opening that I didn't really see that big of an operation until I physically saw it. But those boats came very frequent throughout the day, moving people around Boston. I think this could lock into that same system.
Yeah.
And I think at that point, then there is going to be a much greater need for
Could be.
the number of boats, because if they're going to lock into the same system and make basically a loop around the harbor, they're going to need to have the same frequent number of trips per day
Yeah.
around the harbor, and then our need is going to grow drastically
Yep.
faster, quicker. So I don't want to beat a dead horse here, and I think we're on the right track. I just want to make sure that we're not hurting this operation, because I think there's going to be quickly a much bigger need for this than
Yeah,
what
I
we're
think so.
foreseeing tonight.
Yeah.
And that's why I thought by limiting one business per X amount of vessels,
Yeah.
it allows everybody the opportunity to participate, because there are companies that operate in the Boston Harbor that are going to come looking for our vessel licenses, that are going to lock into their ongoing system already, that they have to just.
Yep.
Yeah, and they're going to come, so it's not going to be just Encore Boston Harbor. It's going to be the
It could
other
be
ones
anybody.
that are traveling through the Boston
Yeah,
waterways.
could be any legitimate organization that wants to do it. So, and that, I think for now, that's the exact reason why you need to leave it open-ended, because you don't know who's going to come forward, in terms of putting a cap. They're going to come in front of us, and they're going to tell us what their purpose is. If someone comes to us and says, I want to shuttle people from the casino to the airport, and that's their only route, then we say, okay, what other entities are already satisfying that need? And is there a demand for it? We're not going to know until we get into it. We're not going to know how much the demand's going to be. Maybe there won't be a huge demand, and everyone wants to be in their cars. But I think that there will be a demand for it. And then we take it on a case-by-case basis. I think the most important thing is when someone comes up looking for a petition, if you want to make sure that other entities have an opportunity to compete, I would just make sure you didn't give away 1 billion vessels
Right.
for the first person that comes up. That's what I would recommend.
But I think the demand is already in place. I think we're tying into a pre-existing operation with our now unlocking the waterways to the city of
Yeah.
Everett, because it's already happening. And that's what I was just trying to show,
Absolutely.
say, that we're just entering into an ongoing operation, which
Yeah.
I and others saw is very busy
Yeah.
and very active throughout.
Absolutely,
throughout
and
the year.
it's a valid point. As long as we have the clause in there that we can put restrictions on it, we can we can control the flow of what's happening and how many people can get involved. We want to have as many involved as want to be there, but.
Thank you.
So, were there any other questions on that?
And then
I don't swim.
my
You're
only
gonna have to
other
become a
question is
stronger
city-
swimmer.
My
All
only
right,
other question
you
is
have to
city
work on
council
that.
renewal approval required. So we're not and I think you touched on this, Mr. Chair. So if there's no issues, they just go through renewal
me.
each year?
Yep.
And if there is
Through the
something
clerk. It's
drastic,
got to come automatically to the council.
This is just to stop bogging down our
Exactly.
business
So-
agenda, so you can deal with the
Exactly.
business of the city
Yeah.
instead of reissuing
Thi-
licenses
but
every
if
year that are
there's
routine.
an episode that happens, it will come before us on the May 31st timeline?
Yes, that was my concern, because the language that was presented for the other ordinance was saying that if there were something that a councilor wanted to have come in front of us, you had to go out of your way to go and make it come in. It shouldn't be. If an entity has a problem,
Yeah.
it should be an automatic.
Right.
If there's no problem and they're doing business the way they're supposed to be doing it,
Right.
they can just handle it through the clerk.
And if there's very severe issues, I bring it forward
absolutely. I know
prior
you
to
would.
the, I
Yeah,
don't ever
right
let
away.
it linger. If there's
Yeah.
issues, I inform them prior to the licensing date.
So other, yeah, there was one other issue that I had. We had we have the blank spot that the
And
clerk's
I'm
going
gonna
to
work
check.
on that.
The other concern I had, it's on page 1, 2, 3, 4. It's regarding the insurance, talking about a limit no less than $1 million for liability.
Correct.
That might be a little low. $1 million sounds like a lot of money. Depending on the size of the vessel, how many people are going to be on it, If you have a fatality,
Yeah.
$1 million is a drop in a
Um,
bucket. So, Councilor Piero.
I'm just thinking, these people may be required on their own to get a higher number of liability insurance without us even
Requiring it.
requiring
They
it.
may.
They may be required just by the,
Just so you know,
their insurance company.
This
Yeah.
insurance policy makes the city an additional insured. This
Correct.
isn't just a
Yeah, no,
general
that's
one.
good.
So this is to protect us because we're
absolutely.
their licensing authority.
Absolutely.
So if you want to increase it, that's your,
Yeah,
I
I
just use what we use for livery and
Yeah.
taxi. Because
I think-
this is
Yeah, I
new.
think we kind of have to, because think about it, two boats could collide with each other. You could have fatalities. They could crash into city property, and now, $1 million may not do it. I just don't want to make it so burdensome. I don't know what the cost of additional insurance would be.
Right, that's-
I don't want to make it so cost prohibitive that people can't get involved, but at the same time, we have to have a minimum level of insurance to make sure that we're fully covered, and individuals that are traveling on these vessels would be totally insured if the worst were to happen. So, I mean, 5's a pretty big number, $5 million. That might be too much. $2 million, I don't know.
Yeah, well, it's not just for them, so I don't want to
Yeah,
have one
it's,
license.
it's put in here right now that it's going to be a limit of no less. Yeah. Yeah. Mr. Clerk, what are we looking at for various size of vessels, do you think?
Well,
From the smallest to the largest, what do
Yeah,
you think we're
so-
looking at?
my guesstimate from what they said, I believe their vessels were going to hold 20 to 30 people.
Okay.
They weren't like huge vessels because they have to fit under the bridge when it's high tide. So they were meant to.
You know what, let me present this to you. I think that if you're carrying anyone, you probably should have a little bit more than $1 million. It should be a minimum maybe of 2. And then, how does this sound? Under our restrictions, when they come and they tell us how many passengers they're looking to do, on the license, we could say you need to have insurance coverage of X million.
And it does say a limit of not less than 1 million.
Exactly.
So it
So
does
that
give
gives
us
us
the
the
option to
flexibility.
ask for
So
more.
I'm wondering
Is that-
if the minimal coverage should be 2, or do you
Oh,
think?
whatever you.
So if we do a minimal coverage of 2, anybody who wants to get in this business, you have to have insurance coverage of $2 million. You are going to be driving on a boat on the waterway. You are going to come into contact with other individuals and property.
I have
You
a feeling
probably
they
should
have
have that
$1
kind of
million
coverage.
anyway, yeah.
And then when a petitioner comes in front of us, if they're going to have a large vessel with 40 people, that we can, as a condition, say you need to have X million dollars of coverage. No, it isn't. It's relatively inexpensive, I would think. So I would be looking to have it bumped up, all of them be amended to 2 million,
Chairman.
and then go from
If
there.
I can just chime in. I
Councilman
apologize.
McLaughlin.
So I just briefly Googled the answer for the elephant that's in the room, which is the Encore vessels that are
Yep.
coming to Boston, that are going to come to Everett. So
I know there's an elephant.
there's 41 feet, they're 41-foot vessels.
Yep.
That hold 40 commuters each.
Yep.
And they are bringing 3 of them.
Yeah, with 40 individuals on the vessel, you better have a hell of a lot more than $1 million worth of coverage. And when the petitioner comes in
We'll
and they
discuss.
say, I've got 40, we can figure out whatever that number is, that might be 10 million.
So
I don't
there's-
know.
So there's 3
But-
boats. So it's
but
3
if you have
boats,
a s-
41 feet long,
Yeah.
to hold 40 passengers.
Yeah, if you have a smaller vessel that comes in, they're going to carry 5 or 6 people, you might be okay with 2 million for them. But the larger the vessel with the more amount of people, we can put the restriction on that they have to have higher insurance. And I think, and that's already built in, so I just think $1 million is too low, no matter how many people you're going to have on there. $1 million's way too low. Things can happen. You come into contact with a lot of people. That would be the request. So we have that in the form of motion. Do we have a second? It's a
No.
minimum.
That's only minimum.
That's a minimum. So if you have someone show up, a small mom and pop organization, and they're going to have 4 people, they have to have $2 million worth of coverage.
By writing minimum, you can
And then
always go
if
more.
someone comes in and it's a larger organization, we can put the restriction, depending on how many people are going to be on the boat, the capacity, we could put a restriction that they have to
Okay,
have.
I'll second the
Excellent.
motion.
Okay. So it's moved in second to amend this to bump it from 1 million to 2 million, all the coverages. In paragraph 3, all in favor? All opposed? The ayes have it. On the piece itself,
Second.
it's been moved in second to refer out as amended. Favorable action, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
Move to adjourn?
Moved in second to adjourn, all in favor? Well, you can stay, we're going to leave. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? You have adjourned. Counselor DeFleur, you can stay.